Hi, and welcome back to Psychology with me, Mr. Snyder. And today we are going to do a quick review and introduce you to some stuff about biology, heredity, the environment, and adaptation, and discuss the nature versus nurture debate. So your learning objectives today are to talk about the relationship between heredity or nature and the environment or nurture in determining development. A quick biology lesson about chromosomes and genes, and then talk about evolution and the evolved tendencies influence on behavior. So nature versus nurture, and over time it might be the oldest argument in psychology. Which has more of an influence on a person? Is it nature, which is their heredity, or genes that they inherit from their parents, that influences your personality, physical growth, intellectual growth, and social interactions? Or is it nurture, which is your environment you're born into? Is that more important of an influence on your personality, physical growth, intellectual growth, and social interactions? This has been argued for the past couple hundred years. Which is more important? Most psychologists today, developmental psychologists, believe that both nature and nurture play important roles in human development. And there's even a new field that is developing called behavioral genetics, where researchers try to determine how much of a person's behavior is the result of nature and how much of it is nurture. And they do this by using family, twin studies, and adoption studies to determine and pinpoint the amounts of each. The role of chromosomes and genes. So this is a quick biology review, but genetics is the study and the science of heredity, or how people pass on their traits and their behaviors to their children. Deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA, bet you didn't think I could say that as a social studies teacher, is a special molecule that contains the genetic material or the code of an organism. It consists of two very long sugar phosphate strands, each linked together by amines or bases, arranged in a particular pattern, and that is the genetic code for building proteins. And a gene is a section of a DNA that has the same arrangement of amines, and a chromosome is a tightly wound strand of genes or DNA that is found in the nucleus of a cell. These humans have 46 chromosomes in each cell. They get 23 pairs. 23 chromosomes come from the mom, 23 chromosomes come from the dad. Most characteristics that we have are determined by the 22 pairs called autosomes, and then the two chromosomes on the 23rd pair determine what sex you are. You get one from your mom, which would be they're going to contribute an X no matter what, and then your dad either contributes an X, which would make you a female, or Y, which would make you a male. These genes that determine our traits can either be dominant or recessive. A dominant gene is a gene that actively controls the expression of a trait, and it will always be expressed in whatever observable trait we're talking about because it has the tendency to be dominant. And some genes have the tendency to be recessive, or they're not going to show up unless they are only paired with an identical gene. And genetic problems can occur because of this. And I have a personal story to tell here. When some diseases are carried by recessive genes, and those recessive genes are inherited in the child when the child gets both recessive genes. So there's no dominant gene to be put forth. That means the disease is going to be carried. My son has something very, very rare called Cohen syndrome, and it's normally found in Amish and some other European very closed societies where interbreeding kind of takes place. And it's very rare, but it's because I gave him a recessive gene and my wife gave him a recessive gene. and he ended up with the disease, and it's caused him a lot of developmental delays. But we just recently got the results this summer of the genetic testing. It's very, very expensive to do, but he has the disease, and we now know it was because each of us gave him a recessive gene. Some other examples of this are cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, Tay-Sachs, which is a fatal neurological disorder, and phenylketonuria. You may see a warning on diet soda or soda in general. It's when a person can't produce phenylalanine, and that when they can't break that down, it builds up in their brain, and it can cause brain damage and some even severe developmental disorders, and can lead to loss of intellectual capabilities as well. So those are diseases carried by the recessive genes, and a person will get them if they have two recessive genes. And so here, if the mom is a carrier and the father is not, then no child will be affected with the disease, although 2 and 4 will carry the recessive gene. In situation B at the bottom, if both parents carry a recessive gene, then 1 in 4 children will inherit 2 dominant genes. 2 and 4 will be a carrier, and 1 in 4 will end up with the disease because they will have a chance of getting both recessive genes. Sometimes the problem can be in the chromosomes themselves, and the chromosome can end up in the wrong cell. For example, you could have one cell with only 22 and the other cell with 24. An example is Down syndrome, which is developmental delay disorder caused by an extra chromosome in the 21st pair. And here you can see in the 21st pair, 3 chromosomes instead of the 2. And then finally, the evolved tendencies on behavior in the 1800s. Charles Darwin, you're all familiar with his theory on evolution, that a species of plants and animals change gradually over many generations as they pass on their behaviors and their traits to their offspring. And his idea of natural selection is that only traits that contribute to survival and behaviors that contribute to survival, those are more likely to be passed on, because the people who have traits that will cause them to die off or be killed don't have a chance to reproduce. And so natural selection means it's the survival of the fittest, and the strongest the people with the strongest traits will be passed on. Those traits will be passed on. That's all I have for you today. Like I said, it's just a very short biology review. Make sure you fill out your learning targets, and I will see you back in class. Bye-bye.